we touch, you inspire. Feel it changing me tonight. So take me up, take me higher. There's a world not far from here. We can dance in desire, or we can burn in love tonight. Our hearts alive, firestorms, and when they strike, we feel the love. Sparks will fly, they ignite our bones. And when they strike, we light up the world. Firestorms, when they strike, we feel the love. Sparks will fly, they ignite our bones. And when they strike, we light up the world. We light up the world. You're the white, perfect strangers in the night. Here we are, come together. To the world we'll testify. Our hearts alive, firestorms. When they strike, we feel the love. Sparks will fly, they ignite our bones. And when they strike, we light up the world. Firestorms. When they strike, we feel the love. Sparks will fly, they ignite our bones. And when they strike, we light up the world.
KXRN LP, Laguna Niguel, Laguna Beach. KXFM on 104.7, kxfmradio.org.
This disclaimer is a statement notifying listening audiences that any opinions expressed on our shows are not representative of Laguna Radio Inc., its management, or its board of directors.
Welcome to this month's edition of Art Walking Radio, your guided stroll through the creative heart of our community. I'm your host, Craig Cooley, along with Leah Vesquez, and we're thrilled to have you with us for another 2 hours of art, stories, and the voices that shape our vibrant culture and landscape. We're just getting our guests and the system settled in the studio, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy a few minutes of music. Let it set the mood, open your imagination, and prepare you for the journey ahead.
So you need a...
Art Walking Radio begins in just a moment. Stay tuned. We're jumping in right now. We don't need any extra time because we're prepared this evening here. And KXFM 104.7 in Laguna Beach, it's Art Walking Radio here. Our URL for more information about Art Walking Radio is artwalking.art. And just to kind of give you a little, here's a little perspective on what we're going to be doing this evening. And it asks, we'll ask a question, okay? Why are humans drawn to landscape painting? Humans are instinctively attracted to natural patterns and open vistas. Landscape paintings evoke evolutionary feelings of safety, balance, and connection with nature. How do nature paintings impact stress levels? That's a good one. I like. Exposure to imagery of forests, oceans, and skies triggers a calm, parasympathetic response, reducing stress. We'll interject that now. Who is our guest? Our guest is Amy Jackson. She's a beloved Laguna Beach artist whose life beautifully blends creativity, environmental stewardship, and community leadership. For more than 18 years, that's a long while.
What?
Amy has exhibited the renowned, exhibited. Well, she's exhibited too, but she's at the renowned Sawdust Art Festival, where her luminous plein air paintings capture the light, landscape, and the spirit of Laguna Beach. Beyond the canvas, Amy is a passionate advocate for the arts, education, and the environment, serving in leadership roles with the Southern California Plein Air Painters Association, the Laguna Art Museum, School Power, Village Laguna, and the Laguna Beach Beautification Council, which we can't forget. An award-winning educator and founder of Art Studio Education for Children and the Gathering Light Collective, Amy has dedicated her life to nurturing creativity in both young and emerging artists. So, what are we going to talk about? The natural landscape inspires art, serving as an infinite source of sensory input, emotional resonance, and structural patterns. From the earliest cave paintings to modern digital works, nature has functioned as both a literal subject and a metaphorical tool for exploring the human condition. 4 ways landscapes inspire art. Tonight we'll do a deep dive into nature nurturing culture and how and why Laguna Beach is world renowned for artist colonies. What draws and keeps the city and its unique topography at the forefront of what elements are fragile and must be kept alive. Art and nature are inseparable. And so with that, Leah Mark, who is the artistic creative director here.
Thanks, Greg.
I think she has something to say.
Yeah, well, we have a lot to talk about this evening with Amy. And it's true that art is probably the most important marketing tool for natural beauty. And without it, the few would ever venture beyond their own door. Because if we look in the past as well, and we know even in now, when people go and explore areas and they come home with photographs, they come home with paintings of places that you want to visit. And that's exactly how Laguna became what it is. Artists came here, they painted the beautiful landscape, they still do, and people throng to get here. They come from all over the world because we're known as an art colony. So tonight, we welcome Amy, and we're going to talk about your background, your education, your inspirations that encourage you to express art and nature.
Your DNA.
And your civic, the DNA also maybe, and her civic involvements in the organizations and positions, and why humans are drawn to landscape painting. First of all, before we begin with Amy, we know humans are instinctively attracted to natural patterns and open vistas. Landscape painting evokes evolutionary feelings of safety, balance, and connection with nature. And it does more than that. There are visual elements of ways of seeing with details and color palettes. So artists choose these palettes from earthy browns to vibrant colors to sunset oranges and tranquil blue oceans. It sets moods. We have light and shadow, like Impressionism. We have organic textures, the rough bark of a tree, or the smoothness of a river stone inspires tactile depth and paintings and sculptures, and emotional and physical connection. They often act as emotional anchors. We have romantic artists. We have artists that work on biophilia, the innate human need to connect with nature, to create art that promotes relaxation and mental restoration.
That is a big part of the science of art. That one right there, I love it.
It is wonderful.
Yeah.
And then we have solace and escape. That landscapes, like you paint, Amy, they have patterns in them, and they offer a visual retreat. You can sit and look at a painting in your living room wall, or you can walk by a window and see a painting, or you can look at a painting and then you can also look out at here in Laguna, you can look out at the ocean and you get inspired. And you take people out to interpret that. And once they interpret, others then look at it and they get excited and they want to see more. So it all comes together. So Amy, let's start off with talking about your background and how your education and how you came to Laguna Beach.
Well, hey, Leah, I'm very honored to be here tonight. And this preface, then your discussion about landscape painting and art in general, and art as it intersects with Laguna Beach is very inspiring, because you're speaking truth to what art really is and how vibrant and what an incredible spark it is in Laguna Beach. There are other places art is alive, but it doesn't burn the same with the same flame. It doesn't have the same connection to nature that we uniquely celebrate and live with here. And that's something that I want to celebrate myself and make sure to protect it, because it does attract so much that sometimes so many influence might come, it might put out that spark. And so we as a community need to foster it and enliven it. But it's a tricky thing. It's not like you can just give it a little oxygen and whatever. It needs all the characters, and it needs all the unusual people, and it needs all of the intersections of culture and nature and sort of contemporary life coming together in a way that this unique spot that can enliven people and sort of lead Southern California forward in a way that is more beautiful. And interestingly, we're at a nexus with our city about this.
Well, it's interesting that you brought it up, because one of our prior speakers, talked about insularity. And insularity was important because of the way Laguna Beach is actually physically separated. It's insular, so that there's just two different ways of coming in and out. One's through the canyon, which at one time, of course, was covered by the ocean, and the other is along the ocean. And it's interesting because when people are here, they're forced. It's almost like they're being squeezed into a channel, and they are forced to be in touch with nature. It's all around them, whether they're coming through the canyon or whether they're walking along the beach, or they're just observing, because everything opens up to the ocean.
Well, as an example, I was talking to a friend this morning, and she said she drove through into Laguna and looked down at El Morro Beach. And she's lived here for many years, and she said the beauty of that beach and that beautiful, cliffside there that we take for granted struck her, that she actually started to cry. And that is something, and that, we have vistas here that are of tremendous impact and natural ability to elevate the soul and spark the heart. Coming down our canyon is also one of them. That canyon always used to be a meandering road with giant eucalyptus, thanks to the artist Anna Hills and many others who planted eucalyptus there. And the atmosphere that we're coming into somewhere special. And unfortunately, our canyon is a a focus of a lot of industrialization now, and that's something we need to be so careful with. And with our School of Art planning to build some wonderful, facilities, we want to make sure those facilities echo and are in touch with the natural landscape and isn't just a replication of a lot of architecture that isn't sensitive to the unique place that it's at.
So, Amy, how was it that your family came to Laguna? Were you born here?
No. I moved around a lot. My dad was in corporate America, so we moved a lot. And they moved while I was in college to Southern California. And I had no desire to come here. I lived in a small town, Amherst, Massachusetts, and loved it. They had no interest in California at all. And when I finally came out, they moved to Mission Viejo, but they drove me to Laguna Beach and said it was Mission Viejo because they knew I would like Laguna. And they were right.
How did they know about Laguna?
Well, they had moved here prior to me coming, so they knew that it was an artist colony, and I've always been an artist since I was a very
Did you
little girl.
feel something special when you came here? Did you feel it?
I did. I loved it. I thought, oh, wow, maybe California isn't so bad. This place is awesome. I loved it. And I got my first apartment here. I lived at the corner of Glenerian Park. And I, lived a lifestyle. I didn't even know that Top of the World existed or Molten Meadows. I just lived down on the beach and in our wonderful center on Forest Avenue at Renaissance Bakery, and and just loved the unique environment. Was very active with Laguna Art Museum. That was where I connected when I first arrived, because I have my degree in art history and fine art. And so
Where did you go to school?
Oh, I went to the University of Massachusetts. So, so I loved museums from the get-go. I knew that was my connection. And Laguna Art Museum to this day inspires me. I was there at Art Walk. They do amazing programming. Every time I'm there, I love they just had their
fundraiser.
The fundraiser of doing with all the artists that they were making, collections for. And I'm not speaking about this well, but in any case, it was always inspiring. And I was I was very active there in a fundraising council, and that's actually how I met my husband, through the museum.
So your husband was also involved in was it fundraising or was it in the arts?
It was education, and it was more education focused group. And anyways, he was a friend of a friend that was involved. He really didn't know much about art, but he enjoyed coming to the events. So he attended a lot of events as we were dating.
I wanted to say, because your beautiful introduction there, Leah, about art and how it affects our culture and how it empowers us and all the wonderful things with it. But when we think of Laguna, we also think about the legacy that it has and preserving that legacy, but building on it with new things. And it's like I guess this is just a commentary from me, but that takes work, and that takes paying attention, and that takes people being involved and caring about art and the culture. And I don't think there's much shortage of that in Laguna Beach. I think that there's a lot of passionate people that bring passionate people like Amy to the forefront to keep, I guess, on task with preserving and moving forward. And that's a daunting task, I might add. But
I think you bring up a very good point. It's repeating it is probably a good thing, because this city has the marketing campaign for this city is through the arts of all types. When I say art, it's not in a frame. It is it is everything from music to acting to every type of expression, including the newest tools, because we always go to new tools as well, and they're all legitimate. They all have a legitimate use, but all the tools that we have also have consequences. So artists themselves have to be extremely careful that they know what they're doing, because the minute we pick up a tool, it can be used for absolutely wonderful, astounding things, but we have to know what things we have to watch for. For instance, you don't want to dump your turpentine into the water course any more than you want to do any damage. But it's the things that we don't teach about that, and a lot of things that we have to become more and more aware with the climate change, with the density of population, with all the things that we use. And, new tools like AI, for instance. We had Chip Malinowski on one time for AI, and he does incredible work, all using artificial intelligence. His work is throughout the Susie Q Center, and along with other people who are painting, and Bill Atkins shows a lot of their work. So there's no tool that cannot be used. Everything from clip art to etchings to watercolors.
Yeah.
Everything's included. Art is what you say it is. That was an expression from Ad Reinhardt, who said, "It is art if you say it is." And I find that really interesting. So going forward, when we talk about your background and your inspiration, what inspires you the most what inspired you the most when you started on your journey into art?
I love how you're bringing up Ad Reinhardt or the Dadaists, like it's art if I say it is. So
I don't think you realize that we are both Boston beans.
Hey.
All this time we've known each other, and then you come up with Amherst, and here I was,
what do you know?
raised in Boston. Yes.
long time ago.
So I understand that very much.
Well, you talk about background, but in creating the composition of a painting, you have your foreground, middle ground, and background. Oftentimes in landscape painting, that background is a sky. And that sky is sort of limitless. It's the most deconstructed, often, part of a painting. And, yet that's the background that when you push the metaphor further is sort of the basis and foundation of a lot of artists' life. And so
the atmosphere, right,
and the oxygen that sort of allows you to burn into your creative journey. And so, I find I often go back to art that's important is something that really comes from you, uniquely at who you are. It's so easy to look at all these amazing artists that are around us and in history and say, I'm going to paint like that. But the truth is that those paintings can be nice, they can be nice pictures, but will they have that unique ability to speak and to connect and to elevate the feeling in someone's life, their eyes, when they look upon it? If you are able to share something that is uniquely you, I find that is what connects with people when they look at a piece of art and raises them up, even though they might not know the story, know what inspired you, but it somehow touches people. And that is my aspiration in my art, to open that door and be able to elevate people's lives. And
it's a welcome mat.
Yep, and share my own love of consciousness of things.
Amy, I think that's wonderful. I think
it's beautifully said.
Lots of people out there that are afraid to take that first step and share their self-expression. And art is a very non-threatening, open way to do that, and it should be encouraged. And in my own world, I was afraid to be judged for my first piece of art. I kept putting it off with excuses. And when I finally did it, someone said, "Who did that?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. It's on loan from the Getty."
That's brilliant.
just to calm them down a little bit, But I think to encourage the people to allow them to have self-expression. So many people feel stymied and afraid, and
The beauty is when there are no set rules, and we have to go back into the concept of teaching art. When you teach art, you have to be very careful because we're not indoctrinating people. And unfortunately, sometimes it goes that way, as you well know, even, because we teach for the test, we teach for the grade, we're judged. I mean, that seems to be a part of the human nature. Nevertheless, going off in your own way, is something that it's learning to believe in yourself.
Well,
and it's a gift.
I've done a lot of teaching. I've been a K through 8 teacher for many years.
And where was this?
I've started in Laguna Beach schools teaching for free in all of my kids' classes. And then I moved into an after-school art program up at Top of the World and at El Moro. And then that grew into becoming a art teacher within the at a middle school in
Thurston?
Not Thurston, not a middle school, a K through 8 private school in San Clemente.
Oh.
And I also taught within the Capo district in San Juan. But what really was my impetus in there is that I really wanted to give back, because as a child I had a really hard time with school. I was a D student, barely could read, and don't know why, but ultimately I was very good at art and luckily had a great art program. And my art teacher, Mrs. Johns, always singled me out. My work always got up in a show. Always gained praise there. And so that was the one thing that gave me a sense of self-worth.
Gave you the confidence.
Yes.
And they inspired you to move that direction.
So I know that children need that in our world. Luckily, Laguna School District has brought more art, and we have some great teachers there that are offering that to kids. So children that are different learners and have that ability to have a place where they can blossom in art and then gain self-confidence that will help them throughout in their academic career.
That is beautiful. That is very well said.
So true.
Yeah, and I think the young minds should not be have blinders on them, and they should be encouraged to be themselves. Yes.
But one thing you're saying, Leah, is like art is whatever you want it to be, which is a awesome freedom that attracts me, and it's like the wind underneath my wings. But the truth is without some structure, people can't ascend that, and they have to realize that art is a lot like reading. There are skills and there are tricks and trade there. You learn those skills to build it, much like you learn ABCs to create a word, a sentence, a paragraph. You learn line, composition, color theory that builds you. If you have an image in your mind, if you want to be able to express it in whatever medium, you need to learn these basic skills to do it. So there is some structure which we've lost in a lot of ways. And a lot of people say, I'm not creative because they don't get that instruction or it doesn't come easily to them. But it's like the people where reading doesn't come easily to them. There are those that pick up and are reading ABCs, they know it before they're 3 years old, but there are others that are hitting 7 years old and they don't know it.
I want to dive into that a little bit, Amy, because in the process of teaching, it takes the kind of understanding from the instructor to see if someone has a very different way of expressing themselves and lead them to an area where they can use tools and things that they feel good with. So, for instance, they may not be able to handle a brush with watercolor. On the other side, they may be great with a pencil.
Or clay.
Or some other type of medium. Or you might see that this person or a child, whoever it may be, is gravitating towards more physical things such as metal, maybe mathematics even. And they like to work in grids. So a really good instructor will be able to see that and talk to them about it. Because again, art can be anything, and then it can go into film. It can go into writing plays. designing sets.
It's really the truth.
There isn't anywhere that art cannot find a footprint.
On the other side of that, are there some people that say, "Oh, I want to be an artist," and they're lost without that structure? They're lost. They want to learn on the mechanical part of it, and they lack perhaps the creativity. It's more of a challenge for the mechanical part of it. Does that happen?
There's a balance. Like
Yeah.
when I was in art school, there was no. We would sit in a circle and just put colors anywhere and then talk about it for a long time.
Okay.
And it led to a sort of inner journey, but it also didn't lead for me to be able to really take my inner voice and my inner vision and bring it out onto a canvas or into an art form. But when I happened upon an instructor that taught traditional
Painting techniques.
painting techniques, it was remarkable how all of a sudden I just felt with a little bit, and I am not an organized person. I do not get organized well, but given that
It helped.
that it helped a great deal.
So one was conceptual, the conceptual art, where the concepts were there with color. And the other was a way of working with guidelines, which can help in a different way.
Yeah. So I am teaching a plein air class at the Sawdust Festival. I actually have a class tomorrow morning. And that class is focused on basic skills of creating composition and color theory. And in that you talk a lot about foreground, middle ground, background, and how do you learn to trick the eye to step into a two-dimensional surface and breathe in the wind of three dimensions. And so that is something that you can learn to do with different techniques in art. And then where you go with them is open. Once you learn those techniques, it's wonderful to fly.
Tell us a little about this class, the age group, and how people would get hold of you for a class like that.
Well, it's through the Sawdust, sawdustfestival.org. They have a wonderful website that identifies all of the classes that are offered, and it's very easy to sign up for the classes on that platform. I also have an adult class.
Is this
that
a
meets,
children's class you're speaking
No, it's
of?
adult.
This is all adult.
Actually, right now I teach mostly adults. After COVID, I'm no longer teaching children that often, which I miss. But I also love the challenge and the journey of working with adults in their creativity and bringing that forward. So I started a group called the Gathering Light Collective, and I have a bunch of students. We meet once a week and go to different places in Southern California and paint outdoors. And then I have a studio up in the Back Bay of Newport that it has space for us to all meet and look at our work and work on it. And so
and
it's
you
very
are back in the Back Bay, and they can use that as the inspiration
yes.
too.
And interestingly, SoCal Papa, the artist organization I'm involved with, is sort of focused around the Back Bay and the Moose Center, which is the nature center there. We have a big art show in July that exhibits plein air painting, but we also have ongoing exhibits that celebrates the nature and also all of OC Park. So right now I have a show with OC Parks at the old courthouse in Santa Ana, which is a fascinating building.
That's a very interesting building because that in itself, historically, also architecturally,
Yes.
that's a very old building. I believe
It's a big Gothic,
all brick,
early 1900s
Yes.
piece. Yes, it's a
red
very
brick. Almost like Richardsonian Romanesque
It is.
building.
It is.
Which
It's
is really interesting.
It's a beautiful building and a very cool exhibit there on the third story if anybody wants to take an adventure up to Santa Ana. But that's an OC Park facility. And with Southern California Plein Air Painters, we are the organization that celebrates the parks.
I'm kind of curious about the Back Bay. It seems like there's a kind of, I want to say hippie community, but there's kind of a grassroots community of artists in that maybe in the, not exactly in the Back Bay, but near that, in that area where there's some commercial space.
Well, the Back Bay is a little like Laguna. It is. It used to be called Santa Ana Heights. It was its own community. It had its own water district and everything, but it's since been absorbed in the city of Newport Beach. The lots there are 1/4 acre to sometimes 2 acres. The houses are usually very small, and most people have horses and big gardens. Unfortunately, a lot of area along Birch Street where we are, there is they've turned that into medical buildings instead of the quaint little houses that used to be there. But we're the little house that's stuck between the medical buildings now. And that's where we're on a 1/4 acre with a beautiful garden, or a kind of beautiful garden. It's
It's interesting. I think, Craig, you were mentioning the area that's probably closer to Coast Highway in Newport.
Right, exactly.
And that's part of the Newport Beach arts.
There's trailers there, I believe.
There are many things. They have sculpture gardens and
There's a big pool, outdoor pool.
That was something that was done a number of years back, and it brought the arts directly to people closer into Corona Del Mar area, where many artists live, like Rick Sprant. He lived there. Tony DeLapp lives there.
Yeah.
They were all there. They were at UCI when I was there. And so all these people, we have an enormous spread out collection of people who are involved in the arts in many different ways. But Laguna coalesces all of it. It's almost like it's completely filtered into a much denser population. And our streets are named after the artists Wendt and Kuprian, and all of the places that we go. And when people come down here, they're very eager to see what people are doing. And as we walk along either the Treasure Island near the Montage, or we walk along Heisler Park, we see artists out there constantly. And I've seen you, Amy, with your groups out there. Tell us about some of that you go out there with and when you go.
Well, I take my Gathering Light Collective, and we're painting in Laguna a lot. I had the good fortune of working with Billy Freed and La Vida Laguna, and working with visitors who came and doing a plein air painting adventure where they would learn about our tradition of plein air painting here in Laguna, that it was founded by artists that were captured by the light and just painted here. And that's part of how we grew to be who we are. For them to actually partake in and do a painting and then bring it home with them. So that was a lot of fun doing that. And then I've done that individually on my own and with other organizations. And so I continue to sort of share the stoke of plein air painting with as many people as I can, because it's what it really is it's a way to celebrate and enjoy nature. It's a way to meditate.
I was going to say, but for our listeners, just can give a couple sentence description of what plein air means.
Oh, it's a fancy French term. Which has stuck, but it means outdoor painting. So you just traditionally painting was done in a studio indoors, for good reason, because it can be really windy, cold, and the light changes outside really within half an hour to an hour. But these artists that came down to Laguna were sort of inspired by the Impressionists that had started about 50 years earlier in Paris and in Europe. And the light here drew them, and they'd learned about Impressionism and their theory about light and capturing it at Chicago, all different art schools, and they came down here and immediately saw that there was something really, really unique here. And those paintings now are worth millions and are highly collected. So
it's wonderful to sit here and talk about the beauty that we still find, regardless of so many people coming in and so much commercialism, but they're still here. And it's wonderful. People come and they would love to take walks and to see how art and nature work together, not just in a studio, but just literally as they move through And they can do that now because the pathway all the way from the ocean to the festivals are there. And you've been involved in the Sawdust Festival for many years now. Tell us about that and your showing there and what you do during that period of time.
You know, the Sawdust Festival is this incredibly magic space. I don't know that we realize how unique and special it is. I travel a lot and always visit the different craft festivals and art festivals. None of them reach the caliber of quality of artists and artisans that are there with the same spirit of music and sort of creative energy. So from the get-go, I was just enthralled with the Sawdust, thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I was lucky to have a lot of neighbors who are artists in the Sawdust, and they encouraged me with my art to show there. And so I took the dive a while ago now, and loved it. It was you're allowed to just be who you want to be there, and there's work of all sorts, and it's a very creative environment. It isn't perfect. There are, like many creative environments, there are difficult corners you can get caught into, but there are also swirls of wonderful things that come together with this kismet. And it brings all sorts of people that can see your art and enjoy it. It seems to inspire everybody who goes in there too.
I guess this is more about Visit Laguna marketing perspective, but say I was, I had a family and I had a couple of my young kids, were interested in art and I was interested in art, my wife was interested in art, whatever. And we thought, well, let's check it out. You know, let's hope those kids maybe expand their vision. Let's go to Laguna Beach because I hear there's a lot of art there. Is there any kind of, say, a 2-week program where they can come and they can get some basic art instruction, and part of it they can tour some of the art events that are going on at that time? Where it's kind of, I want to say it's a package deal, but I guess it is a package deal where you could. Wouldn't that be
wow? That's such a good idea.
That's
it
a
really
great idea.
Is.
Craig, you came up with a wonderful, wonderful marketing tool.
You talk to Visit Laguna because that's a good one.
Yeah, it would facilitate families and sharing art with those families. Leigh and I talk a lot about families and a lot about the beach. And this last couple of interviews we've had, we talk about families go to the beach, and there's always a picture. And that beach is kind of a connection, a bonding, where you're looking at sea anemones or whatever you're looking at, whatever you're doing at the beach. And it kind of, I don't know, it brings things together. I think art could do on a similar level, can bring families together in a situation where they can learn something, and maybe something they'll never forget for their whole entire life. Instead of Disneyland. You know how much it costs to go to Disneyland
oh my gosh,
these days?
It's remarkable, isn't it?
It's horrible.
Well, what I love about your idea, Craig, and again, artwalking.art, nature, nurturing culture.
There you go.
Is that we come up with ideas and all of a sudden we pounce on it because you realize that that's a possibility. That it's not only a possibility, but it's a unique way of marketing.
Maybe National Geographic would support it.
There are all kinds of things that can come from that. Yeah, no, and so that's great.
So one thing that the Sawdust Festival does is they have really fabulous art classes all summer long, and oftentimes I'm teaching a painting class, and they'll put a family will come and put their 2 kids in the painting class, and they'll stand back, and we have a policy that no, you don't stand back. The 2 parents also join in, or the grandparent, whoever is the person, and then they all make art together. And it is so remarkable. And I always end up taking a picture of all of them and seeing the work that they do. And they work side by side with their children. And it's amazing. It's amazing to see how the parents just all of a sudden, by having their kids, they're encouraging creativity in their children, but it also gives them permission, and how happy they are doing it. Because as adults, we don't give ourselves permission to be as creative as we'd like to. And so that's one thing I think the Sawdust tries to do, is to give all people the permission to say, hey, you can create.
If there was this package, though, I feel that as much as the kids learn from the others and the instructors, the parents learn as well. They benefit and learn more about their kids, and
then they are more open to allowing their children to go forward with it and not pulling them back because they're not going to make a good living. And I remember that well when I was at the university in art school. Parents would come with their wringing hands and say, can they make a living? And they were worried. If your father's an ophthalmologist, say, and I'm giving you reality here, and your child wants to be an artist or wants to paint all the time, is not interested in the field that you have, it's hard for them to understand. But by going to these festivals, and the parents, no matter what they've done, whether they're in engineering or, automotive things or they're a doctor, whatever, what that does is it opens their eyes up and they can see the possibilities, which is what you're talking about, Amy.
And in a way, we tend to think like only if you're an artist are you being creative. But the truth is that as an ophthalmologist, there's incredible creativity to it. And engineers are making things happen all the time. And in a way, I think I want to take that wall down and say, I want to celebrate the creativity that is in everyone. But it is, as just a fine artist, it is hard to make a living.
Well, that's the thing. People categorize it. The minute you say art, they say, oh, what kind of things do you paint? They put a frame around it because we've been taught that way. That's my point. Because there is, as you say, tremendous creativity in every single field, and there are no real boundaries, only the ones that we put up.
Well, in Laguna, we often have our artwork framed, but you go into Los Angeles and see their artists have broken all the boundaries. And you had talked in your description here of taking landscape out beyond an oil painting, that people can experience that connection with nature and that elevation through art, but in art in a 3D kind of way, using AI, using environmental pyrotechnics, where they use light and space and film and projection in a way that you can get sort of amplify the experience that you have from painting.
That's very powerful, and I always I pointed out this before, so it's nothing new for Leah. But with the new media, the media that's out there that is available and the technology behind it, traditionally a dancer would dance and follow the orchestra and the musical notes. With the new media, the dancer can dance and the notes can follow what the dancer does, and the lighting and the accents and everything. So it's a whole new day. It's a whole new way to be creative. And that's why I think performance art is, I beat it to death. I'm sure Leigh's like, I'm over this. But I just feel like if Laguna Beach was on the cutting edge of performance art, it'd go a long ways. And if you want, I will write a short white paper on the value of having a package for families to experience art, a 2-week package. It can include a hotel. It can include, I'm sure there would be sponsors.
I'd be glad to carry that forward.
And even Visit Laguna, they could have that there
on the website
for coming in.
A 1-week package, 2-week package.
Well, they can even have it available at the Visit Laguna.
Yeah.
I wanted to also bring out going the other reverse direction, and that is someone like Andy Goldsworthy. And these are people who create art without any of traditional media. They work with petals, they work with stones, and they develop experiential work all over the world. And Andy Goldsworthy was one of them. There's an art park, as you probably know, Storm King
in New York.
In New York, and along the Hudson River. And I was there when Andy Goldsworthy was there. He's from Dumfriesshire, and he has many books out. In fact, the joy I had recently was to go to the dentist's office, Dana Nichols, across from our Laguna Library. And the first thing you see in his waiting room are books of Andy Goldsworthy and others around the world you've never heard of, from China to Thailand, that do the most unbelievably magnificent work with nature. So there, without picking up a brush, without an etching tool and acids, without anything that's going to damage the environment, they do phenomenal artwork. And when, Craig, you talk about performance art, it is the combination of the use of natural elements and the activity that it takes to do this that is a performance as well. So it's really quite magnificent. And one of the ideas that you were talking about would probably be a new element, for instance, at either one of the festivals, because people could come in and see this performance with a visual artist that uses all the things that are native to the area.
Now, we are not without some performance art. The Laguna Art Museum and their Art in Nature, in conjunction with the Getty and Los Angeles, does beautiful performance pieces that take our natural environment, often using different. It's not all Edward Goldsworthy. It's not. They use some mirrors and other things, but they celebrate the natural environment, and it's interactive. And just like you're talking, so maybe the Laguna Art Museum would be a good spot to sort of
this could actually be done, though I think even better out in the canyon and in places like that where people can actually physically walk and experience the beauty of the land.
I ultimately envision a week of performance art, and you could go to multiple locations, whether it's the Rivian Theater and you see a presentation that
films on that,
films on or whatever, but it's kind of for that 1 or 2 weeks, it's kind of art-centric performance art in Laguna Beach as kind of the headline, and whether it involves the FOA or the Sawdust Festival or whatever.
Well, it's interesting, the history, as you probably, and you can talk about it if you want, that how the Sawdust began.
Well, the Sawdust is celebrating its 60th year this year, so we have an incredible year planned. It's really going to be it's something that all the artists have been stirring the pot of all the psychedelic colors they can pull together to just amplify that spirit of the Sawdust to its best. And we've been fixing up the Sawdust Festival grounds and really doing beautiful trees and architecture. And of course, they have a lot of incredible plans that haven't been revealed yet, but they've been in the works to make the 60th year special. But 60 years ago, it was really sort of a dusty parking lot that was just across the street from the Festival of Arts. And these artists were feeling like they didn't get a fair shake to be part of the Festival of Arts, and that they didn't want the man telling them what to do, what to make, how to present their work, or what their work's worth was. And they ended up being phenomenally successful and gathering more and more people like in kind and finding a place to stay in a beautiful eucalyptus grove that the family that owned that ended up donating it to the Festival Foundation and to make a space for artists who live in Laguna Beach so they can exhibit their work and live here. And they've been so successful in doing that. We are unique. When you walk in those doors, the artwork there is really redolent of Laguna Beach. Like Parmesan cheese is from Parma, and this, our art is really something that speaks of the ocean and the wind and the hills and the grittiness of our streets all together.
It was it's an interesting thing to talk about this because the Festival of Arts, and I showed there, and I remember very well when there was an exodus of the artists that made the sawdust what it is today. And they were essentially becoming very aware that their work, which was not formal enough for the festival or on, quote, a certain level that the Festival of Art administration, and that was made up of artists, by the way, felt that they didn't fit in. And that included ceramics for the most part, not for all of it, but it included much earthier, much more nature-oriented type of art and not so formalized. And I thought that was really interesting. And then the name sawdust came up because they covered
the dirt with
earth.
sawdust.
The earth was covered with sawdust.
So the dust would be
instead
down.
of having it concrete. And we have seen at the main festival that it's all concrete. And the Sawdust Festival is still sawdust.
It is. It is. It's still, the earth is right there.
It is. And things like glass blowing, although it's in both festivals, but the glass blowing and all of these things so that you can actually see how things are done and made. That's something you become physically and emotionally involved in it. That is not to say that magnificent work isn't available at the Festival of Arts, and they do their own thing.
Yes.
And they've gone a different direction.
They have a beautiful
work. But the physicality of the space at the Sawdust really gives you the connection between nature and art.
I think it's time to, if you're just tuned in, we're talking with Amy Jackson, and we've had a fabulous conversation. This last hour has just flown by. But we do have a song here that is a special request that we're going to get on the air on our station identification, and we'll be back in just a second, again with Amy Jackson as we solve all the problems of the world here on this evening. Thank you.
city. There's no traffic to mess with. You don't have to think about parking, crowds, long lines, or those people who stand in front of you and don't know how to dance. That's easy. It's the Goonapalooza and the Fantasy Concert. This is RJ Catano. Join me for 2 hours of music every Saturday at 5 p.m. and it's only here on commercial-free KXFM 104.7, worldwide at KXFMradio.org. It's the Goonapalooza and the Fantasy Concert. It's where the best seat in the house is always yours.
KXRN LP, Laguna Niguel, Laguna Beach. KXFM on 104.7, KXFMradio.org.
This disclaimer is a statement notifying listening audiences that any opinions expressed on our shows are not representative of Laguna Radio Inc., its management, or its board of directors.
Oh, we're back here with Leah Vasquez and Amy Jackson, and on Art Walking Radio. Let's give you a few things about Art Walking Radio. We are here the second Thursday of every month, and we have special guests. It's just a once-a-month show. It is 2 hours long. So if you mark it on your calendar, or if you want to make sure you get reminders, you can always go to artwalking.art, and you can put your name there and on our mailing list, and you can get alerted to who we have as guests and all that's going on with, and also there's all podcasts of every event we've ever had. Some very illuminary, I want to say very
7 years.
7 years we've been putting it together, and so it's all about Laguna and Laguna art and all the things that go on here, and where art nurtures nature and nature nurtures art. I think it goes both ways. And again, we have Amy Jackson, who for more than 18 years she has been exhibited at the Sawdust Art Festival. That's really not the main focus, but I mean, yeah, she has a legacy of participating, particularly with plein air art, and being an inspiration to many as a teacher and instructor and facilitator. How about that? How's that sound?
I'd also like to mention to those listeners who may be interested in this program and also would like to support this program, that we are open to people who would like to have their corporations, their family name, and anything you'd like to do. If you'd like to be part of it, you can let us know. Craig, let them know how they can reach us.
Well, if you go to the website for the station, that's kxfmradio.org, kxfmradio.org. Go there, and there's a donate, and you can select Art Walking Radio as the particular donation you want to make to support this program. We dearly appreciate it. We depend on those. We are all volunteer, and at the station, including our time and commitment to the community here and our listeners that have been so loyal and again,
once more, our tagline for artwalking.art is nature nurturing culture, and without it, the air we breathe, the oceans that we gather sustenance from, the earth that supports the beauty, and all of the vegetation that we use, and all the creatures of the earth. We all benefit from it, and we love it and take care of it. And this program is highlighting that tonight with the discussion about plein air painting and landscape. So, Amy, again, let's talk a little bit more about why people are drawn to landscape painting and instinctively attracted to these natural patterns and vistas. What does that do for people?
Well, it's hard to say what it does for people. But I know what it does for me.
For the artist.
Yes. I know that as an artist, and when you sit back to say, when you're going about your life and you come across something, you go, oh, I need to paint that. And oftentimes you see a vista and a landscape, it makes you stop and you say, oh my gosh, I need to capture whatever it is that just elevates your consciousness at that moment. Mm-hmm. I also have it is a way for me to express my love of the environment, my desire to raise awareness for people to conserve different environments and to save them from development. I feel like if I'm able to share and paint that beauty and capture that spark, that will make people aware to love that as well and get them to save something, like our Laguna Canyon when it was facing. I lived here during that time, and when it was going to be turned into another development. I did go out and paint it. I wasn't really showing my work at the time, but I just
our
felt
big march that we had out there.
Yep, I was there in the march.
That was when Mark Chamberlain.
Yes.
We got that done through the Arts Commission in those days.
Yeah, and it was art that helped really push that forward.
It was art that focused on it, and every 10 years that canyon was documented. And we had Tom Lamb on, who does photography in the same way you're speaking, aerial photography. And again, that's an interesting thing, because I want to go back to what you're saying. When an artist like you that does plein air painting is in the studio, and someone like Tom does aerial photographs, you're both capturing the environment. You're both doing it in different ways, but you come together in this appreciation. And the tool is specific to the person. So it doesn't matter what tool you use. It's how you present it. It's how it can be looked at. And that's where the education comes in. And when you go out and you bring people out and you educate them in a way, because then they stop while you're painting and your groups are painting. People gather around you. Isn't that true?
It is true. It is true.
I've seen you at many a beach doing that.
It is true that it makes people stop and say, "You're painting this," and they realize that you're distilling something that's special right at that moment. One thing I think oftentimes a plein air painter will go out and paint a sketch because the light changes so much, a small 11 by 14, 8 by 10 painting that they'll then bring and explore and blow up something larger in the studio.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is, but I love the idea, because I have this feeling that these paint sketches have this sort of ephemeral magic to them that captures the energy of that place. And when you hang that piece on the wall, it's almost like a window where you can feel the wind come off of that, that landscape. So what I like the idea of is to bring the large canvas out into the space, and then with a large brush, just go to town and capture that painting.
Oh, that would
quickly,
be fun.
Very quickly.
And I've done that, and those paintings are exciting.
I think the energy. I think
they
that
have
energy that you're talking about.
Yes.
It's translatable. We don't know exactly. I mean, we can measure it these days better than ever before. That sense of energy really does connect people, and it stays there within the imagery, even if it's just a quick stroke. And I think people that go back into, say, the Japanese paintings.
Oh, yes.
That's a perfect example.
It is.
They always subjugate the human to that landscape environment. The human is never larger, not usually, unless they're painting like Masami Teraoka does, the geisha paintings and the, the different effects. But those are more political paintings, because they talk about, they're humorous in that way.
Those are more illustrations almost.
They are illustrations.
They're telling a story,
yes.
But they have this abstracted tradition that goes back thousands of years, where they just take a brush
and move it one way.
Move it, and they have masters who are known for their simple brush stroke, and that brush stroke is like an energy field that they translate into such simplicity. That is way beyond
me. It's like a baton. It's like a musician with a baton, and the action is actually taught. You push the brush down and you lift it up gently, and as it goes up, the tip follows. And these techniques, when we talked about technique, are unique to each individual, but they have such energy, and you can't miss it. I mean, it's just like this dum, and it trails off. And it's beautiful. It's like a ballet dance that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a dancer that the instrument will follow. So all of these
and
things have
seeing an artist
connection.
create that in real time is almost a performance art.
It is a performance.
It is.
Yeah.
And so that is an artwork that is not only sort of simplicity incarnate in an ancient method, that is its performance of laying down that stroke is also it not only visually but also, I believe the reason it resonates and has lasted all these thousands of years is it's an energy. It has something to do with the energy fields that we experience, that we're just sort of beginning to explore and be more collectively conscious of how energetic we all are and have these fields flowing around us. And art is an incredible part of expressing that.
I've got to share a personal experience. I got doing I call it door art, but if you go to Home Depot for about $35, you can get a hollow core door. It's primed for acrylic paint already. And if you lay it landscape, and you get a 36, so it's 36 by, I think, 72, so it's big. And I always I did art, and I used brushes and stuff, but what I was missing is that inspiration that you're talking about that I think would bring a whole new dimension to what I've been trying to do. Because I get lost in this 2 hours of trying to figure out what am I going to put on it, as opposed to having a vision and being motivated by that vision and bring it to the surface.
So you're saying that it's like when you have a canvas on the ground and you're splattering paint, you're actually dancing on that canvas.
Yeah, that's one way.
You put the brush down and you pull it away on this large wooden platform. It doesn't matter if it's canvas or wood. The point that you're getting to is that you're interacting with that material in a very physical way.
Well, and you're in an environment that inspires you to have that energy, which I think if you were outdoors over at Heisler Park and you had your door and you saw the
your door
waves.
with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Bring that door. That door is sort of a door to another sort of
open a door and
open
forget
a door
the
into
windows.
your consciousness
Well, now
and
you've
get out
gone
there.
into performance art. And you might have some people trying to get through that door.
I've seen some artists. Do you know what a wallpaper brush is?
Yes.
Yes. They're big and wide.
Big.
And so they put different layers of paint, color on it, and then they use that to draw the image on that. And
Well, there's no end to what you can do.
no. But the important thing I just learned here from Amy is that you need that inspiration in the environment that you're in. So if you have to carry the door to the park and set it up, that's what you need to do to get that inspiration.
Yeah, I think you'd be amazed at what happens.
Yeah.
And it's just doing that, the act of bringing the door out there and pulling out your big brushes.
The audacity.
That is an experience right there. That is sort of an art statement right there.
Yeah.
In doing that. The one other thing that I've been really thinking of taking, I really have been touched by bees, and our bees are in peril right now. And I had a large beehive in my garden, and called this company Backyard Bees, that will come out and they save the bees and put them into a hive and take them to a safe place. They don't kill the bees. And I was able to help them and put on a bee suit. And it turns out I had this really amazing connection with this feeling.
They are amazing.
I was
we have
struck.
that bee wall down on Third
painted.
Avenue.
The painting,
And
yes.
Matt Willey did, and he travels all around the world highlighting bees because they're so essential to everything that we need, from
Food.
food particularly,
Yes.
but also transferring all the important things from flower to flower. And they do this. I mean, animals do amazing things that we're not always.
And they when they're all in their hive, their wings vibrate at a certain
and
frequency.
they vibrate, and they have
that
energy.
frequency, I didn't realize it, but when I was helping to take this beehive and transfer it into the box, I was around that buzzing the whole time, and I thought it was super cool. But I realized that my dreams for the next 3 nights were incredible, and I had this different feeling about me, and I thought, and then I ended up by happenstance reading that this is something that people actually go and lay down and take health treatments to be around the resonance of bees.
Wow.
And their buzzing. And so this was something I actually really physically felt, but I didn't know what it was. So what I'm looking to do is just explore working with encaustic, it's called, but you use beeswax and melt
encaustic.
it, and then incorporate that in a very traditional sense with pigments, and create paintings that way.
That was used very popular, 80, 90 years ago. And caustic was, it's a very old medium because it holds the color and it gives a transparency and a depth to it, because when you melt wax and then and it melts onto something that's colored, you have a depth that's going on. But the energy issue is the most fascinating.
It really is fascinating.
Because it's being looked at so carefully in every single area about how these vibrations that we know this from music, and we know this from chanting, people who chant. And the tones, they go into your own body and come back out. So you make the noise, the Om, or with the Satanama and the yoga positions. But this energy is not just superficial. It's very, very deep. It's everywhere in the earth. And, art brings us closer to it. And that's what you're saying, that the point of art is not just one medium.
No.
And it's not just one activity, but the recognition of art and nature and how important that is. And that has been there since we've crawled on the earth. I mean, the ancient cave paintings had that. The hands, the discussion about the animals, the plant life, where you're at. It was a way of communicating. And it still
was
resonates.
A landscape.
Landscape, there you go.
It was.
Brings it with us,
That's wonderful. So I had the opportunity with Fabiola Kinder, who is a wonderful woman here in Laguna, who her father is a famous Haitian artist who worked only in caustic with beeswax, and I helped her do some work on paintings to help fix them up, and it was really a revelatory experience to work with that medium, and realizing how important bees are, how ancient this is. It just is something that brings you to another level of nature in capturing nature.
And I think that's wonderful. We've had so many discussions about art and how it influences our lives. And there are many artists here in town, Darlene Campbell's one of them, who makes commentaries through their art. That's another way. It's not just capturing the beauty, but also pointing out the fragility of the landscape. And in her paintings, she was here, I think, more than a year ago. She paints the landscape, the contour of the landscape, and then when you look at it very carefully, you're going to see bulldozers running across the top of it. It's all part of an awareness of how we treat the very thing that gives us the beauty, the unique qualities, and of course the sustenance in which we draw from, because that's where we get our food from, the earth. And it's a big discussion. It's a discussion that goes deeply into the sciences. It goes deeply into physics. It goes into every single field. So there's no real separation between art, mathematics, and anything else, or space, or lasers, or whatever else there is. It's all a matter of how you approach it, the beauty that you find in the materials themselves, each person having a unique way of working. And there's no one way and no one right way, but it's a recognition that it's all part of this beautiful, very unique environment that we have, especially here. It's all over the world, and in some areas it's very intense, but we have it here in this small, insular place with two places to go, either in or out. And we're forced to come together.
Well, it's very interesting you talk about an artist capturing landscape, but it's not a beautiful landscape. It's more, it talks about what's really happening.
That's exactly what it is.
And yet there is some beauty to that when it interpreted through that artist's eyes.
Yes.
There's something to it that still elevates, and even though it might make you a little heartsick. Or very
because the way it's done is beautiful,
Yeah.
and you know that the person understands it deeply, but they're inserting a story. They're having it's a messaging system. Some art, like many of the conceptual pieces that were done, offer things that you have to wonder what they are. For instance, when you're looking at a painting that is all one color, let's say red, and people don't understand it. And
like a Mark Rothko, or
yes,
he has
one.
more than red. He's
more
a
than
little
red.
bit of a.
But what happens is, and this energy that you spoke about, Amy, is that there is again that vibration, and that's a retinal vibration. And what your retina and those rods and cones inside of your eye is doing, it's picking up a color, and it reverberates and it reverberates depending on the color tone. So there are artists that use color as a way to suggest how they want those vibrations to work on your eye. And it leaves people puzzled because they're ready for the story. Whereas plein air painting and other types of paintings or photographs, or whatever, can all be done with small clues that allow them to get in more quickly. Because, we're not educated always the other way. But musicians know that by the way they play, because they vibrate on a string, And so it is not unusual to mix these mediums up. I used to have a class at UCI in a dark room where I would take the students in, and they could not see their work. And the musicians were in there, and they were to use paints or drawings in a dark room without seeing their canvas to express what that vibration was. And there's that energy again. And the result was fascinating.
Wow.
It was
what an experience. I would love to do that.
That was a wonderful experience. So there are as many ways of working as there are teaching. And there's no one way. But we all know that it's best if you can have a very large format. You can say, okay, we have all these types of things. You can use anything you want, and here's how to use them. Use them any way you want. Mix them up if you want. Once you get to the point, and find what your own path is, what feels good to you. It might be the kind of paper you use.
Well, I love the idea that you brought people in sensory deprivation, where they can't see, so they have to rely on their audio senses, and yet with only that audio
and their
inspiration and their fingers and touch to create a piece of art.
That's right.
And deprive them of what they would, the story they would normally tell with their eyes.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Well, think if you were someone without sight, and we know there are artists that have been without sight. Very famous artists that have lost their sight, and yet they can still paint.
Or famous musicians
Or musicians, for sure.
go deaf, and they still write
deaf,
music. Yeah.
There are jokes about that, but it's true. So we compensate. Our body is an amazing tool, and human beings can do this and have always done this any way they want to.
And art is sort of a portal to
It's
that,
a portal.
to those all
Perfect.
those tools. It just is. You step through it like the door that you want to work on, and all of a sudden, whatever you pick up, there's a world of creativity out there that can go in many amazing directions.
My aspiration was to bring 12 people together to do door art in a maybe a big circle where there's a little wine and some jazz music, and it's a 2 or 3 hour program, and they're given all these materials. They can do handprints, whatever they want to do, and create 12 doors, but bring an architect, maybe a person without a home, maybe a young 12-year-old kid, maybe a retired senior, but all very, very varied backgrounds of these 12 people, kind of a sampling, and have one instructor that can kind of give them some basic ideas of what they're going to do.
I think that's a great project.
And document it. And you'd see, and everyone would get a headshot and a little bio, and you'd maybe 12 months in a year, you could do a calendar. I don't know.
I think that what we need for that is something we've been talking about, Craig. We've been talking about having the kind of equipment that can document these incredible things outdoors, where we're not in a studio, where we can go out and show people what's possible. And that marketing is very successful because other people will see it. They'll see it all over the world.
Right.
As when we had a guest on, and it went all the way to New York, and we had calls from Disney, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
They wanted to know more about this. And so, art can go anywhere. And it can be as small as a little sketchbook and as large as a door or the size of a building. Or, in fact, it can wrap the whole coast of California, which has been done.
Wow.
So,
well, one thing we might want to talk about is how, because art is such an important, we started our discussion about how unique Laguna Beach is as a spark for artists, and that it really is a marvelous environment. But when we're finding ourselves right now at a place where the town of Laguna is wanting, well, it seems that there are aspects of people in town who are very influential, really want a lot of change. And people aren't quite aware of how much change is coming and is being planned. And I would love to see the arts community to get deeply involved to help guide. I don't want to fight change because change is life, and it also can be invigorating. But there's a way to change that is thoughtful and preserves what's good and but also embraces the new. But I'd love to see us as artists be able to help this way forward.
well, that intertwines with something that I think would be interesting that you could talk about was your future trends in nature-influenced designs, the next evolution of landscape painting, embracing sensory integration and sustainability, and multi-sensory art where scent, the smell and sound and texture combine to immerse the viewer in these natural experiences. That digital art will also be part of it, and all the different ways that people work. Could you talk about some of the ideas that you might have for that maybe you could see some of the artists that you work with may contribute to?
Well, I've been very inspired by the artists that have worked at Laguna Art Museum in incorporating art and nature, and also getting so many people together to make that happen, to experiential in celebrating, but also talking about the environment. With many people holding umbrellas that lit up. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
And they just did this year where everybody had one
mirrors.
outfit in the mirrors.
Yeah.
And, it was an event, but also it spoke about things, about our environment and who we are as a community. Since I tend to use the sawdust as my exhibition space, I can see an artist or two getting together and creating a little theater within their booth that people could walk into and have an experiential kind of film that would be surround them, sort of IMAX style, which is also
We'll have to
started here in
have to
Laguna.
talk to Greg McGilvery about
Greg
that.
McGilvery, another Laguna take doing changing the world. So we have a McGilvery-like experience of a landscape-inspired film experience, and then as you exit, you go through the gift shop and have the ability to purchase different artworks that incorporate with that. That might be a sort of a crazy thing to have happen.
Well, imagine the walls that subtly shift with daylight or seasonal tones. Imagine nature painting that, for instance, brings in something, for instance, like crosswalks.
Crosswalks, I love that.
Crosswalks.
Yes,
I even have plans.
that's remarkable.
Yes, those were submitted, and that would have been beautiful because having artists create incredible looking crosswalks would be something that no other city has.
Yeah.
A new identity.
Well, there's some rainbows out there on the crosswalk.
Everything, yes,
Those are awesome.
in all kinds of colors, So people out there listening to this program come up with great ideas. They can call us. Where would they call in?
Well, they can call in and talk to us at any time during the program at 949-715-5936.
We would love to hear your ideas as well, because ideas, while they're plentiful, putting them into a context and having a space dedicated for it gives them sustenance and substance, and an appreciation by others who all of a sudden are stopped in their tracks and think, wow, isn't that amazing? And we do have that.
Mm-hmm.
We have that in many areas with the public art that we have in town.
Yeah.
But also through your teaching, Amy, and through your artwork that you do, and the many people that you touch, and I'm sure there are many that you don't even know that you've touched them, which is wonderful, and that's good. Because that energy that you talked about, that is within the art, it vibrates. It never stops vibrating. And when somebody brings something home that they love, a small piece of artwork, a large mural, or anything, a dress that's beautiful, that's handmade, a purse, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be concept and it can also be concrete,
Yep.
And that continues to go, and it builds not only the beauty around the person who has it, but it expands into the community, and it continues that sense that this community is so unique with that kind of vibration always there. It's still here. It may be drowned out a bit by the incredible amount of motor noise that goes on and partying and all the things that we do here, but it's still here.
Yeah. It is.
And I love the fact that many of us are still here talking about it. And I think it will. I mean, just as the posters on the wall talk about the Doors and Jimi Hendrix and all their music and their art, so Anna Hills and William Wendt and Paul Darrow and Rex Brandt and all of them, anybody who's been in here in town in any way leaves their mark. And someone's going to say, oh, I remember my grandfather had whatever,
Yep.
Or I went to this film and saw this, and I remember that, which is so wonderful. And we are very lucky to be here this evening with you, Amy, and to have Craig, who's, with a masterful voice that he has.
I don't know. I'm always the one to try and stir things up a little bit,
Well, that's what we have
Great,
to
you
do.
have
That's what
amazing
artists
ideas.
do.
I want to see your door experiments coming
I
to
did a web.
fruition.
I'll send you. I have another web I did for that.
No, but we
I
want
get
to see
these
it
ideas.
outside. We
and
want to see it brought. We
Yeah,
want to see
outside.
you dragging that door.
I'm there.
I think Home Depot would give you the doors.
Probably for the promotion, sure.
Absolutely.
We're gonna do.
There's a lot of generosity, and especially if you use somebody's product.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't you think?
There is a lot of generosity
There
in this
is,
town
tremendous
and in the
amount.
world. And there are a lot of people out there wanting to support the arts, and I honor them and tell them to continue to be part of our arts community, to visit the Sawdust, to buy art, and to encourage artists wherever you see them.
Yeah. I have a website for that too. No, I just, for me, I like to create. If I have an idea, the best way to communicate it, I feel now in today's technology, for someone to do their own guided tour of what your idea is to create a website.
And that's very important, what you're saying right now.
I did one for Door Art. And I don't know, I want to talk about it, but I'm involved with another organization called Laguna Beach Pride 365, and it's a 501c3 nonprofit. And because I am so convinced that the idea of a communication system that represents what goes on and what's in Laguna Beach and sharing it with the world is so important to even give us direction to what all these issues are now, and share what is going on and communicating what ideas are out there, that this digital media hub is something that could bring it all together, and without politics, without partisan, but just here's the data, here's the information, and you can see. But it would involve some financial support, certainly, because there's a cost of equipment and there's some creative costs.
And we
involved.
were talking about that seriously when you put together a proposal.
Mm-hmm, I did.
And I think that is a beautiful marketing tool, and it has to be focused and be received by someone who has equal interest in it.
Right.
And that is always the tipping point.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean it's impossible, and timing is everything.
Yeah.
Well, this is your plan to take art walking beyond the radio out into the streets and
Yes.
document and capture a lot of the happenings going on.
Things that are happening.
Yes, and that's something
the
I
beauty
think would
of
be
this
really
town.
valuable.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
a great
Yes.
tool.
Thank you, Amy.
So
And-
I hope to see you guys out there with your cameras.
See,
and
I would like to have the mobile vehicle, and it has paint splattered all over it, and it says Art Walking Art, on it. And here they come with their microphone and their video cameras. They're going
Well, the
to.
idea was that whether it was going to the Sawdust Festival and watching somebody do an incredible project there,
Right.
or whether or not it was at the Playhouse, or whether or not it's the Fête de Musique, where we
Right.
bring
Oh,
yeah.
musicians all around town.
Wonderful.
Or something special like having scientists talk about bioluminescence at the Suzy Q, or AI, or anything like that we could be there.
Right.
And that, along with all the different groups, whether it was environmental group, garden club, doesn't matter what the group
Right.
is, that we could cover it. And we could be there and help people, extend the beauty of Laguna, which is like a painting in itself, making it visible.
Yeah.
And showing how people do things. I mean, being with somebody in a studio, watching them paint. Being with a group of people, watching them do body art. All that is
Body
possible.
painting? Oh.
Oh, you like that?
Sounds interesting.
Well, lie down and let me show you.
I'm sure we get a lot
Now
of
we've
interest
done it
in
with
that.
food too. This is another thing.
Yeah.
The beauty of food,
Yeah.
texture. We all experience these things differently.
Culinary arts.
But from creating a bouquet with flowers to beautiful sushi. And a longtime friend of mine, her name was Slater Barron. That was a name she got because she lived in Huntington Beach on Slater Avenue. And it was Mary Lou when it started off. And she had 5 children and was always doing laundry. And the lint in the laundry became her tool of choice, her art piece. So she started creating with lint huge rooms that reflected her life. And she was at UCI for a while, and then she was teaching, and that lint became forms of sushi, which she wrapped up and showed people how to make all the different types of sushi with lint in different colors.
Well,
And Huell Hauser And Slater Barron and a number of people, and I was there too, would go to her house in Long Beach and see her creating her lint pieces.
Wow.
And it's so wonderful to air this, to be able to sit on this program and talk about the amount of ingenuity and talent and everything. And all of this has vibration to it because it's all speaks of your inner truth.
Well, getting down to inner truth, well, I also not only do landscapes, exterior, outdoor landscapes, but I do interior landscapes.
Talk about that.
Well, I have 4 children, so I'm at home and have worked really hard in the kitchen, and I sat back and said, what do I know best? And like Slater Barron knew the lint from doing all of her laundry, I felt that I was at the kitchen sink most of my life, and that the landscape of a kitchen sink was so indicative of contemporary home and hearth. And if you look at a messy kitchen sink and the canisters and homework and shoes and food and animals and flowers and tchotchkes and all
the mess on the floor
and the mess and everything that went with a busy kitchen and their sink. So I did a whole series of going to my friends' houses when they had messy kitchen sinks and painted them.
Oh, that would be fun as hell.
Those pieces, and I actually have revitalized that and have 2 kitchen sink commissions that I'm working on right now.
How wonderful.
But it's really interesting because hearth was always the center of the home, which is traditionally right around the fireplace, which is fire, that element. But now today, people gather around the kitchen sink where the element is water in a more spiritual sense.
I see.
And it really speaks to our modern day.
I see abandoned buckets on the beach, the kids that they've had where they're doing sandcastles and, maybe some flip-flops and maybe abandoned beach chair. I see a kitchen table where a coffee cup is half full or an espresso thing is there, and maybe someone was writing something, but there's no one there. But it was like, I don't know, I just see it.
There's stories in that.
There's
a story. You wonder, what was the person doing? And you see things in the background like you're talking about that provoke. That's brilliant. I love it. It provoke a thought of, it draws you into question, the viewer to question what's going on and kind of wonder in it.
And we all stand in front of our kitchen sinks, so we all can relate to it. And elevating it into an art form makes you stand back and go, what is our contemporary life about? And it's very interesting, the thought that it provokes.
Well, it not
just
only...
like lint.
Yeah,
I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I see a lot of lint.
Come over and see my lint pieces. What you're talking about, though, is what artists have always done. It's the remnants. It's the remains of the day. And you see a whole life within that. And documenting that is something that artists have always done. Whether or not it was Jan van Eyck, interior work, and he's with people, and they would insert their own views on it. Sometimes they would insert metaphorical stories, like a candle that is no longer lit, but you see the vapor coming from it. Mm-hmm. And that would then be an indication of the Holy Ghost. So the metaphors we use today may be different, but it tells you of a time in which the work is done. It tells you about who was there. Or if you're the viewer, you ask, who was there? Why am I looking at this? What is it that is taking place? So there isn't anything that, quote, art in any form cannot capture, and it's uniquely human.
I see a half-drunk glass of wine on the counter, and a recipe book open to a certain page. That sounds great. I love it.
I want to ask some final questions about your thoughts on the future of Laguna as an art colony inspired by nature. And some of the things we've talked about, you've already said that nature painting may remain as a cornerstone. But I wanted to find out from your point of view, and we've talked about the expansion of that, but where you think the concerns are that we're having now with so much population and so much development, and how that might affect, in both directions, either more creativity or pose an ultimately concerning question about where we're going in terms of allowing artists to be here. Because if it's all built on sales, that's another story. So maybe art has to change from selling art to the experiential. But I'd like to talk to you about that, where we're going from here. Where do you see our city here going in terms of art?
Well, I believe our city really cherishes its art colony identity. And they have started a lot of organizations within the city to promote that, whether they'll be successful or not, because I believe that artist spirit is something that's hard to capture and train. Like they want to build artist housing.
They meaning who?
Meaning our city and city leaders that are trying to promote and sustain our art colony identity. However, I believe that their good intentions, which I laud, sometimes miss the mark. Much like the development that just happened in the canyon, that was artist live work, affordability, and unfortunately they are not affordable. So it missed the mark. And I understand there are economics at play, but I think that we need to really be... I don't know that our city should be responsible for providing housing. I would rather they provide opportunity for artists to make their work
how would that
and show
be?
it.
Tell us about the opportunity.
Well, one thing we don't have in town is an art center. Many places like Irvine have a art center.
What do you mean by that? Describe what you mean.
Well, as an example, Irvine Fine Arts Center is a building where you have a professional level ceramic studio. You have studios for creating all sorts of different medias of art, and then shows.
Excuse me for interrupting, but didn't we have an art school that did that at one time? Or don't they do it?
Well, our art school isn't necessarily available to the community in the way an art center would be.
All right. So you're talking about public interaction.
Yes. I'm talking about something that would be funded by our city and maybe a public-private consortium, and that would sustain and give a place for arts to grow. Our Suzy Q does that to a certain extent. They have curated really beautiful shows, amazing artwork.
And they do have art classes there.
And they do have art classes, and they have art facilities, but that's more of a community center. It is not an art specific place. It doesn't allow you to really get messy and be as sort of unconventional as art centers can be.
Where would you put this? I mean, how do you see it? Do you see it being like at one of the festivals?
No, I would see it possibly, maybe it would be a place where St. Catherine's School is.
Oh,
that could be a vital arts center. There are, I hadn't really thought it through, but having that facility, having ability to, do raku ceramics where you have fire outside and allow that to burn off to create these beautiful ceramic pieces, and a large kiln and big areas to dive into clay
That's the best use of that Catherine Center that I've heard, and I felt like we were going to have a pride event there, and we've talked about the parking lot and the volleyball court, and they're talking about maybe turning into a parking lot. I think they're talking about now selling the whole thing and getting out of it. But it's too bad, because I think that a lot of nonprofits could benefit from access to that facility. It's the city is for the community, and nonprofits are for the community. And there's over 300 and some odd nonprofits in Laguna Beach, if you didn't know. It's got a lot.
We used to have a nonprofit meeting on a yearly basis down on the corner of Forest Avenue and Broadway, where they have the food and the beautiful, food courts on the weekend. I've just lost.
You mean where they have the farmers market?
The farmers market.
Oh yes, okay.
And we used to have that. Used to be a place where you could have those kind of things. But I think that's a wonderful suggestion. The thing is, because we've become so money-centric and we are having problems, that's a financial loss, and it could be a boom, but it would have to be something that people came together on, and that coming together, how do you see that happening?
Well, another way that instead of them, giving someone the opportunity to promote their career and their artwork rather than just giving them a studio space, I think is important. As an example, we have
live there. You mean artists could live there?
I don't want the city to give me a place to live. I want the city to give me a place to show my work and to, create it and to get it out there into public space. So as an example, we have a wonderful arts commission within our city that does some really cool artwork. But unfortunately, a tremendous amount of the artists that they profile and have, interesting exhibits, none of them are Laguna Beach artists. And that's a missed opportunity. We have amazing artists in town.
So we're not highlighting that are here.
Our local artists who are who are really world class.
I think that idea is brilliant. I think Laguna Arts Center is the whole facility. Rebrand it, put signs up. It's the Laguna Arts Center. That's where you come to to learn art, share your art, and display it.
And a facility where children can also go to classes, so people can do. They have classrooms there. They have all the space that possibly could be needed. I think that it's, you're talking about repurposing something that we've already spent money on and that possibly could bring an income into it and also hold the future for the community terms of the arts.
So there's that. There's other ways that our community and our government can sustain our art community. And so giving the opportunity for large sculptural pieces for Laguna Beach artists is another option. But I also see that there is a sense of place, and we have. It's lovely that the sense of place that we have needs to be sort of cherished. That our environment is unique within Southern California now. Everything has been so updated. It's like when I'm painting.
Upgraded?
It's like when I'm painting kitchens. There are all these beautiful kitchens that are just fabulous, but you go into like an old 70s kitchen and you've got this, interesting faucet and an old tan or even brown sink, and everything is sort of gold, and it's very different. And in a way, we have not upgraded our downtown because of very wonderful zoning laws that have kept the charm of our town, much like you find in, say, the towns in Northern California that
Monterey
or in Europe.
Monterey or in Europe, but Southern California has this incredible pressure to change, and I hear that, but I really want us as an arts community to say we are different, and we are going to preserve our history and allow change in positive ways, slowly, thoughtfully, and with an eye towards eccentric.
Well, this has been wonderful.
I like eccentric.
Thank you so much, Amy. This has been a wonderful discussion. last thought, I wanted to ask you, what's your next big project?
Well, I'm very excited about the my exhibition space, the studio I have up in Back Bay, and that gives me the opportunity to show my work and create more experiential environment, because I have this garden and want to make it's sort of a secret place that I want to do events that are, what do you call it? Sort of speakeasy sort of style of experiencing art so it would have to be
Knock
word of
3
mouth.
times.
Knock 3 times together.
And you'll answer the door, otherwise just go away.
I don't know. I'm excited about the Sawdust and really want this 60th year to be very special
Do we have a
as
theme,
well.
a yearly theme at the Sawdust? Is there a particular theme for the year?
I think it's their 60th anniversary. That's the theme.
And is there anything that the public should know about that?
I unfortunately am not as active in that as I am in other things. In my own work, so I don't know exactly what. I know the public should definitely come out to see the Sawdust.
And
it
they
would
can
be
reach
wonderful.
You can even reach you. The Sawdust has a brochure that they publish.
Well, please reach me at amyjacksonart.com. That's my website, and
Amy with a Y, AMY,
jacksonart.com. And I have a website that has a connection to the Gathering Light Collective and all the other aspects and things that I'm involved with. So I feel very honored to be here walking with the arts.
Well,
with
we
both
loved having you,
Leah,
Amy.
and Craig. Thank you.
You've added so much to all the programs that we talk about, and another perspective, and it's really wonderful. Thank you again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you and your work around town.
And that brings us, I think, to another end of a fabulous show. Again, if you want to revisit what we've discussed today, or you missed part of the program, you can always go to artwalking.art, and I will post the video and the audio on the podcast on there. And again, if you want to support this program, you can always go to KXFM radio, kxfmradio.org, and look for the tab that shows our program here, which is Art Walking Radio. And if you wanted to make a donation, we would appreciate that. It's 100% volunteer here, and every little nickel and dime and penny
And we are
matters.
a nonprofit organization.
Yep, nonprofit, 501c3. So everything that you do donate is tax deductible. They can't be tax you on that money.
And we'll look forward to seeing you next month on we hope, the second Thursday of the month.
Right.
Because Art Walking in Laguna is the first Thursday, and we want to leave that time for people to walk around the town. We gather them afterwards. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
We're going to take that with one more little classical song here. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back next month here. And if you, again, want to share any ideas for the programming or offer any comments, that would be just send it to me, Craig, at kxfmradio.org. Craig at kxfmradio.org, and we read all the messages. We love you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for supporting us here on KXFM.
Hey! Oh, wow. I had no idea it was...
Ci voglio andare.
me.